Brothers and sisters, I have the honor and privilege to introduce a good friend of mine and of CWA, Secretary of Labor Julie Su. Give her a round of applause. She's just great. That's right. She has really been a true friend of CWA. Those of you who came to this conference 2 years ago may remember that then President Sheldon called Marty Walsh, who was then serving as Secretary of Labor, the best, most pro-labor Secretary of Labor we've ever had. I'm here to tell you that Secretary Su has been every bit his equal and more, and more. She has been a tremendous advocate for us. She made sure that labor's concerns are heard regarding any decisions made by the federal government, regardless of what agency or department is leading on that policy issue. She passed new rules protecting overtime pay for millions of workers, making it harder, that's right, applause for that, making it harder for companies to misclassify workers as independent contractors, protecting retirees from self-interested financial advisors, and as you just heard, reinstating merit staffing protections for public service workers across the country. She has met routinely with me and our senior leadership at CWA, but with our members, whether they're manufacturing electric buses at New Flyer, call center workers at Maximus, United Campus workers members, Zenimax workers seeking a real voice on the job, and our members at AT&T. Also, just she can hear our concerns and see how she can help. She's taken the fight to greedy union-busting CEOs who are standing in our way. We could ask for no better champion for workers than we have in Secretary Su. So, brothers and sisters, stand to your feet. Please join me in giving our warm CWA welcome to our Secretary of Labor, Julie Su.
Wow, thank you so much. And hello, CWA. It's so wonderful to be with you all. President Cummings, I'm just so proud to call you a friend and a partner in this work. And I've been able to see up close your visionary and unifying leadership, including the ways that it doesn't matter what room you are in or who you are talking to, whether it's union leaders about AI or employers about neutrality or the importance of working people at the White House. You always bring in the voice of this union, of your members, and of the labor movement. And I am just, again, we're very lucky in this country to have you leading this great union. So. I also want to say to Amina Salam, the amazing Secretary-Treasurer of CWA. Amina, are you in the room? Amina, thank you for all you are doing to make sure that CWA is organizing, is bargaining, and is winning in so many places. It's just incredible to see the leaders of CWA shaking things up and making a difference. And we are gathering at a really historic moment for CWA, for the labor movement, and for our country. And I know that both Claude and Amina know something about making history as the first Black man and the first Black woman in their respective roles. So leadership matters, representation matters, and I celebrate CWA's very intentional work to cultivate diverse leaders. And I also want to say to my friend and sister who may not be in the room right now, but to Sarah Nelson, who, like all of the leaders at CWA, are constantly redefining what is possible for working people. It is a pleasure and a privilege to get to support all the work that all of you do. And I also know that you are going to be hearing from my friend and fellow cabinet member, Catherine Tai, in a moment, our U.S. trade representative. And under her leadership, the United States is writing a new story about trade, about making clear that labor rights are not an obstacle to trade, but a cornerstone of it. And so there's no one really better to lead that work than Ambassador Tai in the Biden-Harris administration. So I said we were at a historic moment, and we cannot fully understand the moment we are in without looking back at where we've been. So just to say, before President Biden took office, as you all know well, COVID was raging in 2020 and early 2021. There was no national strategy to get it under control. Unemployment was incredibly high. And when people went to the store, we didn't know if we were going to find toilet paper. You know this, you remember it. And you know it not only because you lived it like everybody else, but because you also worked through it. You strapped this country on your backs and helped carry us through. Whether you were answering the phones at state and local government offices to help people get the services that they needed, that's right, that's CWA members. You were the flight attendants and passenger service agents navigating angry passengers and new safety rules. You were the nurses working around the clock to save lives. You were journalists getting facts out. It was a hard time to get facts out, you will recall, so that people would know what they needed to do to keep themselves safe. And you were the broadband technicians who were making sure that everybody, once our entire lives went online, could get what they needed. So I want to thank you all for what you did then and for what you do now. So for too long, we have heard that when workers organize, it's bad for the economy. It's bad for the country. We've heard that the massive gap between CEO pay and frontline worker pay, where the CEO makes in a week what it takes workers to make in years, is just the natural way of things. We've heard that that's true, right? We've heard that people who work for poverty wages and still can barely get by just need to work a little bit harder. No, that's right, not on our watch. In President Biden's America, we are rewriting that narrative because we know that we can do better. And we're embracing unions like no administration has in the past because, as President Biden says all the time, the middle class built America and unions built the middle class. So since President Biden's come into office, we've had 15.6 million jobs created in this country. A number, that's right, that seemed impossible 3 years ago. We've also had the lowest unemployment rate for the longest stretch since the 1960s. And now, worker power is also growing across the country. From healthcare to hospitality to Hollywood, from teachers to delivery drivers to call center workers, from auto workers to flight attendants, workers are demanding their fair share. Workers are organizing like never before. Even when other people are saying it's impossible, they're demanding things at the bargaining table and winning. So it's been a big year for building worker power in this country, and it didn't happen by accident. It happened because of you. It happened because you are organizing. It happened because you believe. It happened because of your courage. It happened because of your solidarity. And you are building momentum across the entire country that is changing the way working people see themselves and see what is possible for them. And just so you know, as I said, leadership matters. It's also happening because President Biden has been very clear about the important role that unions play in this country in this moment. Just a few weeks ago, I was in Alliston, Alabama, with IUE CWA Local 83700. That's right. And I went to sit down with them because they were, and I wanted to celebrate with them, their first contract. Yep, don't tell CWA that workers in the South cannot be organized. So when I met with the bargaining committee to hear their story, they talked about how CWA organizer Genesis Hunt, that's right, set up a tent down the street from the factory, from the plant. And how initially the workers were afraid to talk to her. Some of them were a little curious, but they didn't know what would happen. But slowly they started to approach her and she talked to them, and then the workers talked to other workers. And soon those workers had a union. And that makes it sound easy, and we know that it's not. And I got to hear the workers overcome their fear, overcome what they'd heard for a very long time about what happens when you try to organize a union. Do you lose your job? Does the plant close down? And they took all those risks and they accepted them and they organized and they won. And then within 4 months, they had a first contract. So congratulations to CWA for that, because as you know, all of those things are hard-won battles. And it was really amazing to see the workers step in their power. They were wearing red Union Strong shirts at the workplace, and they were talking about what it meant for the gains that they had won, what it meant for themselves, what it meant for their families, what it meant in their community. And it was amazing to tell them, as the acting labor secretary for the most pro-worker, pro-union president in history, that I will always have their back. So what does it mean to have the most pro-worker, pro-union president in history? Here's what that looks like. President Biden is investing in America like no president has before. Investing in safe roads and bridges, investing in making sure that every family that turns on the faucet has clean drinking water, that every community has high-speed, reliable internet, building electric vehicles, charging stations from coast to coast. And this Investing in America agenda is creating good jobs and good union jobs all across this country. Because you know, and I know, that when you want the job done right, you need a union worker. So let's just talk about broadband for a moment. The investments in high-speed internet in every single community means that you are connecting families to high-speed internet and affordable internet that they haven't had before. And your apprenticeship programs are training the next generation of technicians and bringing new communities into this work. In Idaho, one of our Department of Labor grants is creating new pre-apprenticeship and registered apprenticeship programs for CWA broadband technicians. And when CWA gets a grant, when CWA builds a program, you are also intentional about who gets those opportunities. So in Idaho, CWA Local 7603 reached out to the Afghan Cultural Center in Idaho to open up apprenticeships to the Afghan refugee community that lives there. That's what successful partnership and that's what real access to good jobs looks like. What else does it mean to have the most pro-worker, pro-union president this country has ever seen? Well, we're protecting government employees and contractors. Last year, the president raised the wages of thousands of federal contractors to $17.20 per hour starting at the beginning of this year. That's right. And as President Cummings mentioned, when I travel the country, I meet with as many CWA members as I can. And I was recently in Jackson, Mississippi with local 3570 members like Johnny and Lakeisha, who talked about what it's like to work for a federal contractor under restrictive right-to-work laws in their state. And I was able to tell them, as I tell all workers, that I have their back and President Biden has their back. What else does it mean to have the most pro-worker, pro-union president in history? Well, as Gusta talked about, and as President Cummings just mentioned, we have passed a number of rules that restore the 40-hour work week, that protect retirement savings, that guard against misclassification, which is meant to pull the rug out from under working people, right? And we did a merit staffing rule, and when we did that, we had workers like Gusta and so many CWA members in mind. We're also making sure that companies that benefit from federal funds do right by working people. That's right. So President Biden's CHIPS and Science Act is investing billions of dollars in companies to make things in America again. But that money is not a blank check. All entities that receive CHIPS funding have to pay prevailing wages. That's number one. That's in the law. The second thing is that working side by side with President Cummings and CWA, we are working to secure agreements by companies that they will sit down with CWA and agree to neutrality when it comes to organizing in new fabs that are being built. I applaud you for that work. And we'll continue to hold corporations accountable to their word, because I know what's possible when we protect working people and when we stand side by side with unions. Now, we also know, and you know, that there are employers who have decided that it's cheaper to break the law, that the chances of getting caught are slim. You're laughing because you know it's true. And that the consequences, even if they do get caught, are minimal. We know that that takes place. We know that that is an underground economy that operates very much in the open, that undermines existing workers' rights, undermines the right to organize, and creates a low-road economy that makes it very difficult for the high road to continue to operate. And we are also saying to that, not on our watch. We are enforcing labor laws in communities all across the country, unleashing the full power of the Department of Labor to protect working people from such violations. And last year, we issued the most citations for over $100,000 by OSHA in the entire history of OSHA. So we're using every tool in our disposal to make sure that penalties are real, the costs of breaking the law are real, and you are also helping us with this work. You're offering nationwide OSHA 10 construction training for free to broadband technicians involved in fiber network development, and that's going to make sure that technicians not only know how to keep themselves safe, but know how to complain when there are violations on the job. Because nobody should have to sacrifice their life, their limbs, their lungs in order to do their jobs. Now, last year, this whole past year was a big year for workers at the bargaining table. I mentioned that. You guys have made that possible. And I've been in the room for several of those negotiations. And in the past, employers have always assumed that eventually people in power were going to start to say, ooh, the demands of the workers are just a little too much. Also, not on my watch. What I say in that room, for companies who say, well, gosh, the demands that workers are making for wages are just too high, they're too far above the market wage, is we need to be questioning why the market wage is so low, not why workers' demands are so high. And when I'm in the negotiating room, I proudly let everybody know that the only people who can decide whether a contract is fair are the members themselves. That is the right that workers have, and that's what it means to have the most pro-worker, pro-union administration in history in your corner. Because the values of the Biden-Harris administration are the same values that the labor movement has. In President Biden's America, we believe in fairness, right? We believe that all people should be able to find opportunity and security and get a good job. We believe in a just day's pay for a hard day's work, and that every working person should know at the beginning of the workday that they're going to go home healthy and safe at the end of that workday. We believe that every worker should get benefits and care so they can go to the doctor when they need to. We believe that every worker should be able to retire with dignity. We believe that immigrant workers make America strong, and we believe that there is no place for racism or sexism in the workplace or in our communities. My friends, the Biden-Harris administration stands with you, not only more than any administration in the past, but we stand with you today, and we will stand with you in the future, because we know it's the right thing to do. We know that unions make America strong. We know that what you are doing is what this country needs. And so keep on organizing, keep on fighting, keep on building your power, and know that we always have your back. Thank you so much.